welcome to our conversation of if not now, when? The world is filled with challenging circumstances and situations, but we within ourselves have the power and the ability to come together with one another to overcome what is ailing us and what is challenging us. It's only our mindset that is stopping us. Today's conversation is about overcoming the poverty of mind to thrive. Think about that topic for a moment. Poverty, when it's economical, it's one thing. When poverty is in the mind and our spirit, it's a whole nother thing. And coming from a poor, war-torn country myself, what life has taught me is when we can enrich our minds and get past the poverty mindset and embrace abundance and embrace the fact that when I put my mind to it and I vitalize my spirit and have faith, not just in my maker, but in all my fellow human beings, all of a sudden I will have what it takes to make my economic poverty improvements. And keeping that in mind, we are going to have this conversation about the importance of overcoming poverty of mind. Poverty of mind is not a poor country issue. There are a lot of rich countries that are poor in their head, right? And so poverty of mind is about thinking small, thinking scarcity, thinking there's not enough. How do we get past that? And then how do we thrive? Because our mind is leading our body, our mind is leading our actions, and in that is our strength. But our power comes from bringing people together. So in my effort to do this, I have a dear friend I have gotten to know over the years and absolutely trust and respect, who is my co-host for this conversation. Kunle, welcome, my friend.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Kaz. It's always a pleasure, being by your side to do this wonderful thing together. And I believe what we are doing will definitely be transgenerational. It will cut across a whole lot of people. And, one thing about building people is the fact that it doesn't stop with that person. So you build one person, the person builds another person, then it cuts across and spread all over generations after generations. So doing this with you is not for this moment, but it's monumental. Thank you, Dr. Kaz.
Absolutely. And I love how you said that, because when we help transform one person, it's everybody in that person's sphere, right? So our influence gets geometrically magnified. I love how Rumi explains it in his poetry. You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in one drop. Think about that. You are the entire ocean in one single drop. What that means is the power of the entire ocean, the nutrition, the richness, the history, everything that that ocean holds, you embody. And if you're embodying that, that is how powerful you are, because you are the entire ocean in that single drop. As we continue this conversation, I want each of you to take that. If you need to write it down, write it down. Take that as a reminder. I actually have this as my screensaver. You are not a drop in the ocean. You are an entire ocean in a drop. And that gives you, if you say that to yourself every day, that becomes your mantra. That becomes your motivator. And then look around and see who are the other drops. Get the drops together. Now you have a bigger body of water. So as we get started, Kunle, you look around you, you're looking at what's going on around you. And there are these rich countries and there are poor countries and there's everybody in the middle. The people who thrive, people who do well, are people who have richness in mind. They are not embracing a poverty mindset. They have an abundance mindset. talk about it in terms of what are you seeing and how can we help people embrace the abundance mindset and get past that mindset of poverty.
Wow, your introduction has been very profound on this, Dr. Cass, and I love it. The truth is, the fact that you don't have is not the reason for being poor, but rather the fact that you don't know. And there is one quote of mine that I normally say, the mind is an asset to us all. The use is the difference between us all. So when you see someone who is poor, either materially, and when we talk about poverty, it doesn't always have to even be material poverty. People are poor, in terms of knowledge acquisition. People are poor, somehow maybe health-wise because they don't know some things. People are poor in their relationship with other people. So when you are poor in terms of your network, sometimes it can translate into a whole lot of things. And these are some of the things that we are set out to find a way to correct in our society, how people can think abundance. The fact that you don't have doesn't make you poor, but the fact that you don't know. So what are the things that you don't know that are really responsible for your lack in one way or the other? Once you get past that in the knowledge realm, and then you take action in the implementation realm as well, then you begin to see that abundance abides everywhere. And talking about, developing countries, such as mine, Nigeria specifically, even the people who we think have, and then somehow they have acquired a lot, and even including treasures that might belong to other people, all this they do at the ignorance of the other people. So the reason why they could grow so big so much is because they have somehow pushed people towards, lack of knowledge, and the profit on that in one way or the other. So what we are saying is, when you grow the capacity of the mind, when you grow the capacity to know, you are not only growing yourself in that sphere, you are growing yourself materially, you are growing yourself health-wise, you're growing yourself relationship-wise, network-wise, you are building people, you are building yourself in one way or the other. So that will not only put or enrich your mind, it will enrich your hands, it will enrich your pocket, it will enrich your environment. So in one way or the other, what makes people poor? It's not because they don't have, it's because they don't know. Dr. Cass.
I absolutely love how you phrased that and how you connected the dots, Kunle, and that is exactly it. And what the powers do is keep the poor ignorant, right? Because that is a mechanism to control. Our task, therefore, is how do we get people out of the shackles of that place of ignorance? Because it's because they don't know any better, right? I give you the crumbs and then you just take what I give you, you don't need to know anything. How do we get past that is the key. So when we think, and we do this happens in rich countries too. So many people don't read. In the United States, to get into university, you just have to read, write, and do math at the 5th grade level. That is the requirement to get into university. How is that not poverty of the mind, even when you're going into a university system? Here I am, a graduate school professor. I have graduate students who can't write English and they do not speak another language. That is all they know. I mean, some American presidents who went to Ivy League schools who can't thread a sentence in English properly, right? We've had 2 of them in the recent past. I'm not going to name names here. So poverty of the mind is common everywhere. When you have money, you can buy your way out of it. And when you have money, you can control other people by keeping them mind poor. So let's talk about how do we jump that threshold and get to a better place, starting with how do we teach that in the schools? How do we help the teachers become the incubators for training and developing young minds from Montessori school, kindergarten, all the way to university? How do we get teachers on board? Because they truly have the opportunity to transform their students.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's what is very pivotal in, creating a headway. Because when we start from places such as school and some other institutions, it might even not be a formal school, but a place where people gather to learn in one way or the other. These are going to form like an incubator for them to get exposed to what they need to know, because that is very, very key. That is very, very important, because a whole lot of people, what they lack, it's not necessarily the resources, but the resourcefulness. And I love what you were saying. Even in rich countries, there are people with poverty mindset, and that is very, very true with what Tony Robbins said one time, that some people are so poor, all they have is money. So money in hand doesn't make you even rich at the end of the day. That's the truth. So how do we now begin to make people have this abundance mindset, a mindset of an abundance, that you can now start from wherever you are to build whatever you want to do? And it's also going to be an all-inclusive, strategy whereby we put ourselves into consideration. Remember, one of the things that those people do is to find a way to divide us, because they know that when we come together, we are stronger. When we come together, we will know. When we come together, we will teach one another. But that is like the trend, the pattern that we should break, whereby we create a platform where people can come together to learn together, create knowledge together, and then help one another, buy things that they produce, and then learn more about some other things to do in one way or the other. And, wealth grows, because what the people they want to do is, it's so difficult to become a billionaire, or to, because in such a way that it's not achievable. And so when a poor mindset now starts with that mindset that I am just living, that's how I'm going to live, to feed from hand to mouth, and that is it, because of the picture that had been painted, that they have forgotten the fact that wealth can be grown, wealth grows. And by the time I see Dr. Kaz investing it in one way or the other, I am also benefiting myself. So that is how we can grow our community, one by one, being the change that we want. Kaz.
Totally hear you. And as you're talking, a story comes to my mind. I use this story in the classroom in my MBA program, finance, economics, and leadership classrooms. And here is the story goes. This is based out of Mexico. An American Ivy League MBA graduate, after graduation, is taking a vacation to Mexico just to relax, take in the scenery, enjoy the beach, and chill before he takes on his promotion and moves on with life to become this richer, more affluent person. And as he's walking along the beach in Mexico, in a small village, he sees this fisherman come ashore, and he has just a handful of fish. And then he watches the man gather around his kids and grandkids and the wife starts a fire. They're singing, they're playing instruments, and they're waiting for the fish to get cooked, and they're having a good time and they're eating. So they invite him, he joins, and he says, "Why did you only catch a few fish?" He says, "Because that's all I need to eat." So the MBA says, "But what if you stayed a few more hours longer and catch more fish?" He says, "Why would I do that? Then you'll get rich." He says, "How rich?" He says, "You do that every day. Soon you can start a business. And if you do that every month, in a few years, you can start exporting fish to the United States. And you do that for a few years, you get incorporated, you can issue an IPO in the US stock exchange." The fisherman says, "Oh my, and then what?" He says, "What do you mean then what? Once you get the IPO, you get all the money? You are a millionaire? You can do whatever you want to do." So the fisherman says, "Then what would I do then?" And the MBA says, "What do you mean, what would you do then? You have all the money in the world, you retire to a very quiet fishing village, you fish a little, you play a little, you sing a little, dance a little, and have a good time. That's the life of a millionaire." And the fisherman says, "Ah, I see." And he continues with his family singing and dancing and living the life of a millionaire, right? To me, that story is about people who have the richness of life already are living the life of a millionaire. We don't need to make all that cash to waste 30, 40 years, get all the diseases, cancer, blood pressure, diabetes, then come and live poor while you have money. Steve Jobs is a good example. He died a rich man, but he died a lonely man. And his regret at his deathbed is that he never even built a relationship with his own daughter. Think about that. All the money in the world, money can buy you a house, it can't buy you a home. Money can buy you a trophy spouse, but it cannot buy you a family, right? It can buy you food, but it cannot give you food that's cooked with love, that is actually healthy. All the important things in life cannot be bought with money. How are we building a rich life? And richness doesn't equate money. Richness equates vibrancy of our relationships, vibrancy of what we bring to the table. So as you were talking, this fisherman story came to my mind, and I actually have my students talk about it and write a paper on what does wealth mean. Because I want them to know that chasing money doesn't bring you happiness.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one of the problems we've had over a period of time is that we spend a whole lot of years in school, and some of the vital things that will help us were not taught in school, and these are some of the things we are sharing right here on this platform. And that's why it would be very nice if we go back, and that would be like a give back to the society. If we go back to the people and begin to teach things that will make them prosper, because in school we're only taught businesses, and some people were only taught how to manage other people's businesses, not to even be independent or manage their own businesses. Issues about relationship, issues about families, they transcend most of the things that we spent a whole lot of number of years learning in school. And afterwards, like you said, for a man who has reached as Steve Jobs, who could, at the end of the day, felt somehow empty in one area of his life and found something that money could not even buy for him. So these are some of the things we should begin to see how to give back to the society, to begin to train the younger ones. And that is our path to prosperity, because we begin to redefine what prosperity is. And when it starts from the mindset, when the mindset about prosperity begins to change, and when the foundation begins to change, then a whole lot, the perspective, the notion, everything will change. And then it begins to, because everything that we see on the outside starts from within. So what we are looking for on the outside, the money we are looking for, the fame we are looking for, the buildings, the houses, they all start from within. So if you don't build them within, and that's why nation building is beyond what the government will want to do, that you just want to pump money into the circulation, just give them, some things. And that's why we found out that doing that over a period of time had not solved the problem. The problem still exists. If we must solve the problem, we must go to the bottom line. We must address it from the scratch, the foundation, build the mindset of the people, change their mindset, and a lot about them will change.
Absolutely. Well said, Kunle. And remember, in zoos and these wildlife sanctuaries, they say don't feed the animals, don't feed the birds, because their very survival requires for them to go and get their food the way they are naturally supposed to get. Human beings are creatures too. If we are constantly fed and all we do is sit there and just open our mouth, right? We're never going to learn to be self-sufficient. If we're not self-sufficient and we can't take care of ourselves, then we're practically invalids, right? We're like a nursing home patient, except we're in our home and people have to give. We don't realize truly being free, truly being independent means being able to accomplish the things our life was meant to be. Not taking handouts. That is a dependency lifestyle. So people who want to be free, people who want to be independent, people who want to honor their maker and truly embrace the life we were blessed to embrace. That is our job in life, right? That is our job number one. Not putting on a suit and going to an office or going to a shop and working for a shopkeeper. That is not our job number one. Our job number one is honoring our maker and then living the life we were supposed to live, because there's only one of me. If I don't live my life, imagine how many others' lives won't be lived. Imagine if I were a fisherman. If I don't go to fish, then it's not just my family that doesn't get to eat fish. It's all my neighborhood communities who depend on fish. People who use the fish to make fish oil, people who use the fish oil to get healthy. So many lives get affected. Imagine in COVID when they shut down the office buildings. All the coffee shops, restaurants, courier service, everybody went out of business. When they went out of business, farmers didn't have places to go sell their food, right? So there is a secondary, tertiary, fourth layer impacts that are happening. So remember, when we choose not to live our life meaningfully, we are causing a ripple effect of other people not accomplishing things. Keeping that in mind is so important. So let's open this up for a conversation, Kunle. We have to our audience, feel free to turn on your camera, your audio. Let's talk about what's coming to your mind as you hear this conversation, and how do you see yourself helping your community get past that poverty mindset, and how can we help you get there?
All right, thank you so much for the opportunity. This is Felicia. I think you can hear me.
Yeah, Felicia, we can
All
hear
right.
you.
Thank you so much. Wonderful, wonderful discussion so far. I've been learning and imbibing everything that the doctor and our mental health strategies has to say. Well, my contribution goes thus. Firstly, one of my mentors, it made me to understand that the largest room in the world is the room of self-improvement. So, self-improvement, meaning if you are already there, maybe your good has become better, good for you. But if you're not in that place of being good, but you aspire in your heart to become better, then definitely you're welcome to the fold wherein you improve yourself. So the largest room really is that room of self-improvement. Why am I bringing this into play? I'm bringing this into play because just like we've been saying, assuming there's a knowledge gap somewhere that is causing a form of poverty, and you are ready to work yourself out of that knowledge gap to close the gap, then you are already crossing that threshold, and then you are getting the place of self-improvement. So that self-improvement cuts across whether you're already high there, whether you are low there, once you put yourself into that circle of self-improvement, then definitely you'll be able to deal with the poverty mindsets. You'll be able to deal with that, that gap, so to say, in the no area. And then before you know it, you become better and better, and then your best become better, and then your best become better than best. Just as you keep improving, and then acquiring the right knowledge, associating yourself with the right people will help us, to be able to deal with poverty mindset. Why? Because we don't know it all. Nobody is an island of knowledge. You don't know everything. So by the virtue of associating with the right people, collaborating, associating, with the right set of people, you up your game. You learn from them. They challenge your worldview, and then those poverty becomes places where the poverty itself, becomes dispelled out, and then riches come in. Better understanding comes in, knowledge of how to do what to do, and then improvement, even at the place of knowing how to do it, comes to play. So thank you so much. That's my little contribution. I hope it makes sense. I know it makes sense.
Brilliantly said, Felusham. And you're exactly right. Every person can get better, right? Yes, give him a round of applause. That was brilliantly said. And even those who believe they've got it need to get better. And as they're doing that, we have to pull each other up, right? And one of the things to remember is none of us know everything. What is the beauty of a conversation like this? What I know and what I have practically able to implement, what Kunle has, what Felusham has, we bring it all together. When we bring it together, it is more powerful than what each of us do. And we are modeling to the world the power of that coming together. We may never have seen each other. We may come from different parts of the world. We may have different cultural upbringings, maybe even different faiths. But do you know the one thing that unites us? We're all human. We are all human, and our challenges are the same. And why doesn't the world then watch us? If we can do this, they can do this. And so thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that and giving us an opportunity to showcase that to the world, because it's going to take every person's insight, every person's wisdom to flip the script.
You're very right, Dr. Cass. You're very right. I'm fully sure you were so profound about self-improvement right there. Very, very spot on. And one thing you mentioned there that struck me was, the act of associating with one another, which Dr. Cass also mentioned. I mean, we are blessed by association because that holds a lot of ground in prosperity. We can't do it alone. We can't prosper alone. And that's why it's a thing of growing together. It's a thing of the community. We have to come together. And the earlier we realize that, the better for every one of us. I don't know, Tope, you can unmute if you have anything to share with us. Tope is a very good friend of mine. And I am also willing that he will be part of our project as time goes on.
Beautiful. Tope, go ahead if you are able to unmute and speak.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
I might not be able to speak because I'm in another session, but I can't afford to miss this. So I'm running two things at the same time. Please just pardon me, excuse me, but I'm following. I'm with you guys. Welcome, great job. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Toke. Well done.
Okay, so as we are talking, one of the things I want us to start exploring is we all have nature around us, right? And the nature is teaching us something. And how do we take what nature is teaching us and use it to educate children, because they embrace what nature has? So one of the things that I grew up observing in life is the crow. And culturally, what we do is when we cook a meal, we always put a plate together and go put it out for the crow, because we believe that there are spirits in the crow. There is a soul in a crow. Feeding that is like feeding the universe, okay? So one of the things the crow does is the minute you give the food, it doesn't start eating. It starts making noise and inviting all the other crows, no matter how little food you put. They bring all the crows, and pretty soon your garden is covered in crows. And they may all take a grain of rice, but they all share. Think about that for a moment. The lesson the crows are teaching us, right? Vultures, even when there is a dead body, the vulture doesn't go and eat alone. Vulture goes around and round making noises and gathering all the other vultures. And then they have it like it's a Thanksgiving feast, right? Even a dead animal is devoured by creatures together. Even when they didn't have to do the work, they share whatever that was dropped on their lap. So what lesson are we taking from nature? If other creatures can do this, we are supposed to have the sixth sense, the common sense, right? So if creatures without common sense have the common sense to do it, what happened to us? How can we bring that forward? How can we create and cultivate that habit from childhood? Because if we inculcate this behavior in children, then it becomes habit. Let's talk about how do we do that in our communities? How do we bring this to the kids?
I mean, what you have just, the picture you've painted with the analogy of a crow and vulture learning from nature, that's absolutely insightful. That's absolutely insightful. And that will go a long way. And when we teach our kids, when we have, how we can reach out to them, and we're glad that can be done through several means, both physical and then, virtual means right now, because the power is in the consistency, is in the constancy, how we reach out to create that avenue for them to imbibe some of these things over a period of time, that they learn that what they have does not belong to them alone. It's like when we grow together. And that's like the problem, the people who had put us in this problem, that's the problem they are propagating. So when you get to power and then you find out what belongs to everybody, only you want to have it, and then what you say is that when other people get there, let them do the same. So it's a selfish, way of life that have brought us this far, which some people have cultivated over a period of time. And that pattern needs to be broken. And that is through, bringing these people together and then letting them learn over a period of time. Let it go beyond their conscious mind. Let it go into their subconscious mind, whereby it goes to that point that they exhibit it even without thinking about it. Just like you painted a picture about the crow. Now, so when he sees the food, he doesn't think about eating immediately. It is natural to him. So let that become natural. Let us naturally express those things, how to build our community, how to call on one another when we know the expertise of one another, because that's how we will grow. That if I know the expertise of people who are within my community, they are the ones that I will reach out to, because I know that will grow their business, and they will do the same thing for me. What goes around comes around. That's how we build together. That's how we are blessed by associating with one another.
Truer word have never been said. Thank you so much, Kunle. And Felicia, do you have anything to add to that conversation of how we embrace from nature and how we get the children involved? Because when children know stories, they will go and share with others, and then they can transfer. Children can influence the adults. All we have to do is plant the seed in the children. Go ahead. Maybe we can't hear him, Kunle.
All right, thank you. Can you hear me? All right.
Yes.
While you were speaking, what came to mind was the fact that these things that we want to teach children, it's imperative. It's imperative that we don't just teach them, but we are actually the doers of these things. You know, there's a place for theory. There's a place for practical, and then when the children actually, or the people that we are trying to mentor, so to say, see us living this lifestyle, then we are on the theory, we're actually living a pistol of these things that we want to imbibe or want to teach them. So they'll get it better. Just like when you're at home, you see, it's not just about telling your children, don't do this, don't do this. When they see that you're not doing it, they say, okay, daddy doesn't do this, then I will not do it. You know, mommy doesn't do this, mommy doesn't pick this, then I will not pick it. So it's important that it's going to be a conscious effort on ourselves to be a better version of ourselves, to be able to ensure that our children, our generation next, you know, we're able to impart in them a wholesome life. And it's a big challenge for every one of us, ensuring that, you know, we are doing the right thing consistently, not just hiding behind the bushel or, playing hypocritical about being hypocritical about what we know is right. We just have to be plain, we just have to be real, and we have to be someone of the people that they can really emulate, these great virtues from. If we're an example of what we want to teach, then the process becomes easier.
Beautifully said, Fulushmi. And ultimately, modeling the behavior becomes the way to replicate. So beautifully said. Go ahead, Kunle. I see you want to add some thoughts. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's so profound. What Felicia just said now, it's absolutely. So when a group of people, and that will start from us, while we are teaching these people, they see that we do the same thing. So it will be do it, and then it will now be like act as I say or act as I do or something like that. So when we walk the talk, it will be easy for the other people who are coming behind to do the same. I really, really appreciate what Felicia just said. Dr. Klaas.
Absolutely, absolutely. So as we think about bringing this conversation to a close, I want us to recap the things we can do and the things we can model in our behavior to help ourselves, those around us, and the people around those people to start overcoming the poverty of mind so that together we can thrive. So let's list them out and let's go around and see if we have missed anything, okay? So far what we've talked about is always understanding that what we don't know is going to keep us poor. So seek out information, seek out knowledge, and expand the mind. Then look for people who model the behavior and model that behavior. Take lessons from nature. Don't limit the definition of richness to money. Remember, the food we eat, the relationships we have, the knowledge we have, our collaborative capability, all of that is richness. And when we work together, we can overcome poverty. What other things have I missed, Kunle? I have 6 so far.
I think these are major things. And then, we are also blessed by associating with one another. And that's like the power of creating a network, forming a network within ourselves, because that's where our power lies. When we come together, we cannot be stopped. They can stop one person, but they can't stop an aggregation of people who are determined to fulfill whatever desire that's in their heart. So association is very
lies
important.
our strength, right? We were taught a story. Every time you talk, Kunle, I'm reminded of the stories we were taught through. A father had 4 sons, and he told the sons to go and pick all the twigs in the yard and come. And all the boys brought a bunch of twigs, right? He told all the sons, take one and break it, broke. Then he said, take two and break it. It was a little harder. Take three and break it. It was almost impossible, but they broke it. He said, now put four together and break it. Couldn't break it. He said, do you know the lesson there is? If the four of you stick together and help one another and work together and enrich each other, none of you are going to be broken. So take that lesson and go live your life, because you never compete against each other. You never work at breaking each other. You work at keeping each other strong, because only together you're going to be strong. Individually, no matter how strong you think you are not strong. That is the lesson we were taught for strength and collaboration. And when you spoke, that's the image it conjured up for me. And you're so right. Our strength comes from us working together.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Thanks for this story. I love stories because it teaches a lot.
I know, we were lucky.
Thank
we were
you
taught
so
through stories.
much. And
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I wanted to just add that this should be a continuous conversation whereby, in learning from that story are coming together so we can grow ourselves, become more within ourselves. But what the purpose of what we want to do is going to be our strength and our number as well. So I think this is something that we should look forward to, doing consistently over the visible impact, the tangible expression of our coming together.
Beautiful. And that perfectly cues up what we're going to talk about next time. The third Thursday of next month, we're going to talk about the importance of coming together, because it makes us unbreakable. Our unbreakable bonds is what's going to be our next topic. And thank you so much for cueing that so masterfully. And Felicia and Tope, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing the names right. I so appreciate you. Cannot wait to see your faces and engage again next month. And please bring the community in. The more we involve in this conversation, the more we can replicate in tangible ways. And we really want change. We don't want to talk change. We actually want change. And I cannot wait to see you all in person. Have you come to the Caribbean, me come to the African continent. We have magic to work. And we're going to do it together, because I know only together we can do it. Thank you very much. And let's continue this conversation on, if not now, when, at our next gathering. Thank you. And together be unbreakable, together be transformative, and together be the magic and the change we need to see.
Thank you so much.